Welcome to Bite Size Little Marketing. Today I
It's
have
Friday, baby.
Ian and Cringy with me.
Pew, pew, pew.
Cringy released a new song last night. I stayed up for it,
Was it
and
worth it?
it was worth it. Ian, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, Kristen, you probably released your song on what we know as some social media platforms. And then we can segue into exactly that. Let's chat a bit about social media platforms because Cringy was just telling us, or asking rather, what's our thoughts on threads? And Kristen, my honest opinion or my honest answer is I have not downloaded it, so I do not know. So you can tell me, you can tell me what's going on.
Yeah. So just a little backstory on it. We all know the drama with Elon Musk and Twitter and all the craziness happening where he's just changing things constantly and pissing people off. So Instagram, in response to all that, was like, this is the perfect time for me to come in and make my own version of Twitter. So Instagram comes in with Threads, which is essentially just Twitter. And it's trying to push people over there and get them to sign up. Well, for the first week, people were signing up and everyone's like, oh, this is going to be cool. Well,
It's
last week
new.
there was a massive
Mm.
drop off in user, percentages and things like that. So people were just like, "Oh, this is boring. It's not really engaging." I was noticing people with 5,000 followers getting 10 likes on a post. It just didn't really
Oof.
correlate. And then yesterday or last night, or not last night, the night before that, I woke up to my threads blowing up from like 2,000 followers to like 6,000 followers in one night. And it's because Threads is trying to push the following so that it'll make people think that, it's growing and that it's engaging. But really, I think it's just force following people from your Instagram platforms, which is really weird.
Do you think it's bots that they're pushing up, or do you think it's real people?
No, it's real people because I was also thinking the same thing. And I went in and I would click on random profiles, the ones that I thought looked kind of fishy or ones that I knew. And I just wanted to make sure it was really them. And it's real people, but I just don't understand how it's working. I just assume that they're taking your Instagram followers and just moving some of them over.
I wonder sometimes about how difficult it will be to launch the next big social media platform. We're so integrated and our expectations are so high that it's the balance of how to get traction and giving up the current tools are really challenging. And if you think of MySpace, everyone likes to talk about the next MySpace or whatever. The problem is, and this is my memory, between MySpace and Facebook blowing up, there was a fair gap where we had no real avenue to connect the way we do today. So I think there was this consumer behavior hunger of this connection or perceived connection because now we know it. It doesn't mean much, but today, if you roll out a new social media platform, I don't use Facebook, but I still have Instagram. I still have these other mechanisms, and at the same time, the other avenues to connect online have increased so much that I think it's going to be wildly difficult to come in with a new social media platform that really takes off. And I think that's why we've seen Parler and what's the one that was only voice, Threads. There's
What
been
what's
half a dozen.
what's Trump's new one that
Whisper,
he's been pushing so hard?
Something with truth or trust or something.
truth,
Truth
yeah,
Social.
social
Truth
truth,
Social.
yes,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
yeah, and
But
I, regardless of the mechanism, there was one where you could only do voice, right? And there was one that was invite only. There was
Mhm.
one
hmm,
they just don't. The problem is I still have Instagram or I still have this other thing that I can
Yeah.
do. Why would I go? Why would I go to the new
hmm.
one? And then they're
And the
denied that ability to, because when Facebook launched, it was really rudimentary. If you go back and remember, I cringe when I look at my first 20 posts.
Yeah.
There was like four things to do on it: find somebody and post a picture of your food.
Those are the good times, though.
The good
the good
times.
We got
times of
along.
Facebook.
There
But
was
also,
no filters.
I completely agree. Like at this point, I've just been asking myself, like, what more will a new social media platform give me that I cannot already get? Um, when we talk about Parler and we're talking about Truth Social and we're talking about these things, this is not people jumping ship because they're seeking innovation. It's people jumping ship because of political affiliation and
Mm-hmm.
thinking they're going to get a better product because of going to this other social media platform. So, I mean, I agree with you there, Eric. I don't know what it looks like. We thought it was going to be Meta, like this is the next thing. And I mean, Mark is not on a very good track record right now with innovating products because it seems like Meta completely fell flat. And if you Google it now, some people, you would find why Meta died or why we can take it behind the barn. And now we have Threads. The same thing happened. So, what is next?
I feel like they just don't understand their user base. Remember when they launched the VR chats with Meta, where you could go into
Mm-hmm.
a virtual room and talk to your friends? I'm like, that's not what anybody wants. Nobody wants that. That sounds terrible.
Well, even the identity, they're trying to build them around the identities, like you were talking about, Ian. But the problem is that would immediately fall down outside of a really hardcore group, right? But like when you reach public mass, like I don't. While I certainly align with a particular political affiliation, I do not want to just hear that voice constantly,
Mm.
in an echo chamber, right? Like I seek disparate population, and I think most of the world does. I think there's a minority population that's very loud in any
Mm.
topic out there, and I think if you build a platform around and a core, part of my identity, I immediately want to sort of now I'm having to have different platforms, and I think Kristen's right. Like I think they're building for popular, but they're not really getting to the core of what social media was about. And it was about the sharing information and the connection. And I think someone's going to get back to how do you make meaningful connections? I think that's the one that will take off.
I think the
Mm.
problem with that is that that was the original intention of social media, was connecting, and it was this positive paradise. I think what it devolved into was addiction. And now
Mm.
platforms are geared for addiction. If you look at TikTok, it rose so
Consume, just
fast, and
consume all the
it changed
time.
the
Yeah.
landscape. Like
Mm-hmm.
it changed the way Instagram was consumed, it changed how Facebook was consumed, YouTube. All of them had to conform to TikTok because
Mm-hmm.
TikTok was the new thing where you're just doom scrolling and it's so addicting to what's next. Is it going to be funny? Am I going to cry? Am I going to learn
Yeah.
something? Like, and you just don't know because it's feeding you whatever it thinks you want.
Yeah, because that's such a good observation that you're making there. Like, even if you watch The Social Network, which is one of my favorite movies for the record, if one of our listeners, if you've not watched it, go watch it because it gives you a little peek into the tech startup world back then, especially in the colleges and yeah, just how Facebook came about. And the whole premise of the movie is we're going to help people connect. We're going to help people connect. And Facebook was that. I remember, Eric, as you mentioned
It
earlier,
was.
like I think back my first posts, my first things, like I was tagging people in my posts. I was sharing the picture. I was going
I was
after a
checking into
party
locations. Yep.
with my
Yeah.
friends. And that was amazing because then my friend, oh, you went there? That's amazing. And that was like the healthy part. And Kristen, to your point, like it feels like when I'm on Facebook now, it's either to be on Marketplace to buy and sell secondhand things, or if I'm actually using the platform, it's just consume videos or stuff. It's just how much can we blast into this person's face and keep them here while we throw ads in between, which yeah, it has changed.
And don't
It,
forget the political rants.
yeah.
Ugh,
Oh, the
yeah.
political rants of
Yeah.
2016. For me, there was a few things that have fundamentally changed my usage of social media, and it's really interesting. There's a guy I follow, Chris Williams, and he talks about like he's basically built his life on an Instagram following, and he's like, I don't even have Instagram on my phone. And if you look at
Wow.
the tech giants of the world, they don't let their kid, they're well known to not let their kids on social media, and I can remember when I think about that, I can remember when Facebook first began to feel unhealthy for me. And that was when the humble brag of around 2008 to 2009 era became popular. My boss made me get up at 6 a.m. to fly on a private jet, like
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Stupid stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Snap, it's up.
But I think that's when it went from we begin to compare ourselves to how other people's highlight reel. I think that's when the highlight reel started happening was around there.
Mm,
And you would go to someone's profile and see 1,000 selfies. You could even see the background, right? But it was alleging some amazing place. And I can remember that's when I began to be disenchanted. But I'll tell you when I really became disenchanted with Facebook and when I stopped using it was somewhere around 2018. And there was a period of time to where, there's a lot of times we take pictures of the office and, we would run them in ads and stuff like that. And we still do today. But for whatever reason, at that particular time, people just could not leave them alone. And they would make all kinds of improper jokes about the staff and, how lucky the doctor must be to work with that many attractive women. And I got so just wore out of hiding inappropriate troll comments across, the 100 or so offices we had at the time. And I just stopped
mm.
using Facebook personally because I just wore out. Like, funny enough, me being in the industry of social media caused me to not want to use social media. And in fact, I think I have 3 Instagram posts. Yeah. Now I consume Instagram, but I don't. Yeah, I'm not a tech giant out there, but I don't let my kids have a social media account because I've seen what's out there and we're faced with it every day. And I think I think it's turned a corner somewhere and it needs to try to get back to its roots. But
Mm.
comparison is the enemy of joy, and basically social media is just a big comparison.
Right. I feel like there was some kind of convergence, like thinking back to the emergence of Instagram and photos being prevalent first and then videos. There was like technology going up, with like, we used to use those point and shoot cameras to do everything. And then
Hmm.
now we're able to do everything on our phones. And it was like this slow transition. And then along with it was the social media styles that were, coming out. Because before
Mm.
everything was text posts or links, and then it turned to photos, and then it's now these really quick videos that everyone can shoot on their phone, and so anyone can become a social media influencer.
Mm. And Eric, you said something that stood out to me now is that the change of the stories, and Kristen, you touched on it now too with the
Hmm.
photos and then going to videos. Do you guys think like that? Eric, I'll start with you first because you mentioned first. Do you think like that, like the sharing of the stories and like that change of like I will post now and then to I'm now having breakfast, I'm now having lunch, I'm now driving in my Mercedes, I'm now driving from my Mercedes to my apartment, I'm not, and just that real constantly like, do you think that feature was what kind of broke Instagram in terms of it being connecting and more of a humble brag, or what was like the tipping point, um, specifically in terms of functionality and features of the platform?
I, I'll have to. I think my answer revolves around. There's always been a challenge of does art reflect reality or does reality reflect art? And I mean, there's been numerous studies done from the Hollywood movies on. If you look through Hollywood movies, right, through the post Vietnam War, through post 9/11, through these things, like there's this movement of is Hollywood reflecting what is in the population already, or is the population hearing what they see and then turning it in?
Mm,
And the real answer is both. You can't sell something that people don't connect with, and once people start connecting with something, more people connect with
they
it.
sell it more. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So both are true, right? So art
Okay.
does impact the population, and the population impacts the type of art, and I think that's been true for hundreds of years. Um, as long as art, thousands perhaps, right? And I think my answer is in there somewhere. That it, certainly we saw the Kim Kardashian selfie era, and she looked amazing, and then we began to replicate that, but she was able to do that because of the way we were consuming content already, and then it morphed to the humble brag, and then it morphed to just a highlight reel. Now I do see Instagram today, and the type of content today feels more approachable. Like, and we've talked how even 5 years ago we wanted our ads to look like ads, and now we want our ads to look like organic posts. And I do think that, you're starting to see like one take things, and I'm, Kristen's videos, and you're starting to see people want to look more uh,
Authentic.
authentic. Now, I mm, are
Is
they
it though?
actually more authentic, or are they looking more authentic?
It's all about appearances. It always has been.
Yeah, and so I think that we are just seeing the evolution of these platforms, but I think they reflect what society wants, and then I think we see people do them and they look good, and we aspire to that, and we start doing it.
Mm.
And I think that's how we've seen these evolution of Facebook use, or social media usage.
Mm.
But I want to hear Kristen's answer because I talked for a long time.
Can you rephrase the question again? Because I feel like we've gone on a trail.
Yeah, I was just asking about how, at what was that tipping point? Erica touched on the introduction of stories, and then that culture that he had just mentioned of art and reality, and the Kim Kardashian of the world. Like, what was for you that tipping point where you started seeing, okay, this has changed. Like, since this has been introduced, it's just different on social media with how people engage.
I mean, I really stick by my comment about the technology. Thinking back to even the YouTube days when I was first consuming YouTube, you had to have some sort of recording equipment. It had to be a decent thing. You had to sketch out your skits and have like a personality developed and something that people would anchor to of like this is this YouTube person. And there were only a
Mm.
few. I remember there being like each category had, a 10, 20 major YouTube uh, like icons. And then, as we progressed, everyone was able to access YouTube. Everyone was able to get to that level of quality and show off who they were. And it started to just, branch out and become
Morph. Mm.
like bigger and easier. And there's something about, highlighting that sense of authenticity. I hear that all the time now with social media. Everyone's like, "Oh, be authentic. We want to see the real you." All the comments on I see
Be
on singers
authentic.
are, "This is auto tune. This it's filtered. It's like it's done in post. Like this is not real." So I've had to change gears on how I present my stuff, and I'm doing everything live one take. I'm trying to be as in the moment as I can, and I'm even thinking, as I keep promoting my music, I'm going to have to get to a more eye level, height with my audience. I'm not trying to be up here anymore. I'm not trying to be, Britney Spears, Christina looking down at my audience, because that's what it used to be. Pop icons were above us. We would look up to them and put them on a pedestal. But now we're wanting to bring them down to our level and humanize them, because
Mm.
we're craving that connection. We all miss it. And you hear about it all the time about people that are depressed, about how they put this fake persona on social media, but on the inside and in real life, they're just, wasting away.
And
Yeah.
what's your take, Kristen? Obviously, as someone that's very, very active on social media, this might not apply to you as much, but Eric, you on the other hand, said you don't post that much. So these new platforms where it's like if you post, then you are allowed to view X amount in that day. So you have to post to be able to be active, or you have to do this. Otherwise, if you don't post, you can't see other people's stuff. Like, what's your take on those platforms that we're seeing becoming more popular?
We're not going to see them become more popular. Is the
Because it's
answer.
not okay.
No, I don't think that reflects the reality. I mean, I think Kristen nailed it on the connection. Um, there's no bunk beds in the graveyard. You die alone, and we seek those connections. And I forcing me to share when I'm not ready in order to consume content is not the answer to connection.
A losing battle.
People want no bar to entry. They really do. Like,
Mhm.
even just looking at platforms like TikTok versus Instagram. With TikTok, if I send you a link for TikTok, you can view it on any browser in any way. For Instagram,
Yeah,
sometimes it makes it so hard. You have to sign in order to just view
terrible,
something. And it's really annoying. Same
terrible.
with Twitter. Twitter was like that too. For the longest time, I would never click on links from people that sent me stuff that I didn't have the platform for. And when I saw TikTok, I was actually very surprised to find that I could open it on desktop, because that was new.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
No,
nobody
yeah,
wants to
that
like have to pay to play.
No, no, that's
especially
not a
on these
reality.
types of platforms. And
Well, you're
I
not
mean,
going to get social. You're not going to reach your critical mass like that.
and is there anything interesting on either of your radars that you have seen that's like something new? I know at one point that Clubhouse platform that didn't last very long. That was like a blimp during the COVID times where it was like invite, like you said, Eric,
The
invite
invite only,
only,
right?
and
Yeah.
then Elon Musk is going to talk in the Clubhouse and it's exclusive, and that has just died. So is there anything else out there right now in terms of social media beyond TikTok that's interesting, or is that pretty much the new kid on the block?
Say what you will about Facebook, and I acknowledge that the younger generations have moved away. It is still awfully powerful in the space. I can
Mm.
see a trend of going back. I mean, advertisers have moved back to it, right? If you just follow the money. Um, but yeah, I think TikTok is the newest and most exciting. I don't know how economically viable it is today to market on it or share brands. I think Instagram is probably the gold standard today of branding, if you will. Um, but it's tough. LinkedIn could have been it, but I mean, nobody goes on LinkedIn. It's
It's
been sold.
boring.
Yeah, it's
To be
Humble
boring.
honest,
brag,
it's really boring.
humble brag in my professional career. That is it's the
Yep, yep,
Instagram of
yep,
your
yep.
business life. I
Yeah,
am
and
so honored and proud to be
well,
given this massive raise and position at this massive top 500 company. Thank
yeah.
you so much to my team. It's like,
And if
it's
you
a
look at it,
brag.
I think LinkedIn is actually a really good. If you looked at the history of LinkedIn, you would see in it the history of social media. I can remember when LinkedIn first started, I loved it because it allowed me to connect with coworkers of the past in a meaningful way, and it kept connections tight for when you needed to have a job search. When you were looking for
Mm.
someone of a specific skill set, like LinkedIn was very, very valuable. Now I log in, and I don't know if it's because they've associated my record with various roles and things like that, but like it is spam. And it's gotten so aggressive that they hire people to go to our website and fill out our form and use my LinkedIn information to try to make a connection with me. And it has just basically become this spy platform of how to cold call, cold lead people, and that's how it's used. And I think there's some legitimate connections I've made on it, but primarily I just see the negative in it because of how it's gone. But at one point it was valuable.
Well, do we have anything else on social media platforms for our listeners today?
That was
I
a
just
rough read of the week. I didn't read anything.
you read, I don't know, someone's caption.
I read, yeah, I read
I
Instagram
did
stories.
want to comment a little bit on the ad styles for each one since I use those. And I will say for Facebook, I think the reason that people stick with it for ads or go back is it's still so cheap to advertise there. And you can do things like add links to the actual post or in the thing, which can do more external linking versus Instagram does not want you to link externally. It wants you to stay in there. Instagram is still so expensive to advertise on. It's almost not worth it unless you're doing some kind of brand promotion. And then with TikTok, it's a similar style to Instagram. But what's cool is they will pay influencers to basically review the product. They film it, post it on their TikTok, get all the views. They link to the product in their TikTok captions because you're able to do that. You can add buttons and things like that. And then the brand turns around, uses that video, and uses it as an ad. And I've seen that so many times where it's literally the
Oh
same style
yeah,
as any other TikTok. So it blends in, and by the time you realize it's an ad, you're already halfway through the video.
in it.
That's how they get you.
Yeah,
That's
but
how
it's
they
really
get you.
smart and on TikTok to make them look native to the platform. Because every time I come across one that's not, I'm immediately swiping and
Hmm.
going away. I
Hmm.
don't want to watch that.
Kristen, Ian, thank you guys very much. And that was your not read of the week.